I told him his desire for me was disgusting, and from that day on he never touched me again. Not once, not even by accident. I'm going to be honest with you. The truth is I'm honestly trying to understand how everything went so wrong. I'm Camila, I'm 28 years old, and 6 months ago I thought I had a perfect marriage. Now I'm here wondering if I'm going to lose everything, and somehow I'm being painted as the one who made the mistake in all this. When Daniel and I started, I swear I felt like the luckiest woman. This man was fascinated with me in the best possible way. Every day he told me I looked beautiful. He stressed how lucky he felt to have me by his side, that he couldn't help but want me to be his, and the way he touched me. Wow, it was everything. He'd pat my butt when I walked through the kitchen. He'd suddenly hug me during the day. He'd kiss my neck while I washed dishes. Even casual touches visibly moved him. Well, if you know what I mean. At first I loved that attention. My friends would roll their eyes when I boasted that Daniel couldn't keep his hands off me, even after being together for 3 years. Isabel would say, "It must be nice to have a man who acts like he's still dating you." And honestly, it felt pretty good. There I was with this incredible man who felt delighted to have her by his side, while her husband barely looked up from his phone when she entered the room. But then life started to get very complicated and stressful. Work was a nightmare, new demands, new deadlines. My mom had health problems and I was exhausted from it all. That's when my husband's constant physical attention started to feel less like love and more like pressure. Every hug seemed like it would just turn into something more. Every caress made him even more excited. It was as if he couldn't touch me normally without everything becoming something intimate. I started to notice it more and more. We'd watch TV, and he'd hug me, and in minutes I could feel how excited he was just to have me close, or I'd give him a quick kiss in the morning before leaving for work, and he'd just make it more passionate. He felt moved that I was with him. It was as if my body was a catalyst for his emotions. And honestly, that started to make me feel uncomfortable. The truth is that Daniel never pressured me into anything. He was just excited, but he never did anything that was a problem to deal with. Well, he'd just adjust and move on, but I started to feel like I couldn't be affectionate without him practically becoming a machine. I couldn't just hug him and feel his body. It just reacted immediately. My friends also started to get annoyed, always asking how Mr. Perfect was and asking if he might possibly be waiting for me to be in the mood. They had no idea how annoying it was to feel every touch loaded with an energy I just didn't like. Sometimes I just wanted normal affection, not just desire. Now, looking back, I see that I was building up resentment for something that should have made me feel loved. But at the time, especially with all the stress I had, it became overwhelming. I started to pull away a bit, not reciprocating the touches as much, trying to create space, but Daniel didn't seem to notice my signals. He continued to be the loving and physically responsive husband he had always been. I convinced myself that he should be able to read my mood better. He should know when I just needed comfort and not that kind of energy. But I never really told him. I just expected him to somehow understand, and when he didn't, I got even more frustrated. The stage was set for everything to explode, and I had no idea it was going to get horrible. There I was, tense for weeks from feeling that Daniel couldn't touch me without getting moved. When everything finally blew up. It was Tuesday night, and I had had the worst day at work. Everything that could go wrong went worse. I came home just wanting to disconnect and wanted to watch some mindless TV with my husband. Daniel realized I was stressed as soon as I entered the room. He's always been able to see when I'm stressed. Something I normally adore about him. He made me dinner, didn't ask me much about my day, just let me vent a little while we ate. After dinner I was sitting on the couch, still tense, and he came over. He started massaging my shoulders. At first it felt good, really good, his hands undoing the knots in my neck and shoulders, and I finally started to relax. But then he leaned in and started kissing my neck gently. His hands moved, practically caressing my arms. In maybe 2 minutes I felt like I was pressed against the back of the couch, and yes, he was getting excited again. Something inside me just couldn't take it anymore. All that pent-up frustration and irritation came out at once. I turned around and said, "I'm sick of you. You always look at me with eyes of desire, and it's uncomfortable." The words came out harsher than I meant to say, but I was so sick of feeling like I couldn't get comfort from my own husband without it turning into this kind of act. Daniel recoiled as if I had slapped him. His face went completely blank, and for a second he said nothing. Then he said in a low voice, "I can't help being attracted to my wife. I'm a young and healthy man. Camila, I think this is normal." But I was already too upset to listen to reason. I told him, "It's irritating. I can't even get a normal hug from you without you getting excited. It's like you can't touch me without making it all about the intimate." Daniel looked hurt in a way I had never seen before. "I'm not making it about that," he said in a low voice. "I just can't control how my body reacts to being near you. I've never pressured you or made this a problem." And the truth is, he was right, he never did, but I was already too defensive and frustrated to admit it. Instead, I got even more irritable. "Well, change that. It's uncomfortable and I'm tired of all this." Daniel looked at me for a long time, and I could see something change in his expression. It wasn't anger exactly, more like he was just processing something painful. "Okay, I understand." After that, he went to bed without saying another word. I stayed on the couch feeling justified, but also with a bit of a stomachache. Deep down, I knew I had been very cruel. Daniel had shown me love and desire in the only way he knew how, and I had called it uncomfortable, but I was too proud to apologize, and honestly a part of me felt relieved, thinking that maybe at least he would keep a little distance. I didn't realize that I had just dug the grave of my marriage, a chain reaction that would destroy everything good I had. Daniel wasn't a fighter or someone who liked to argue. He simply took what I told him and decided to protect himself in the only way he knew how. And that protection was going to hurt me more than I ever imagined. That night he didn't try to hug me in bed like he used to. He stayed on his side, and when I woke up in the morning, he was already up and getting ready for work. There was no good morning kiss or hug before he left. Just a polite, "Have a good day, love." And he was gone. I told myself this would be temporary, that he was processing what I told him, but looking back, that was the moment everything changed between us. I rejected the core of how he showed love, and Daniel, being the man he is, simply decided to respect what I asked of him. The change was immediate and absolute. Daniel simply went from being the most loving and physical husband I knew to barely touching me to say hello. No more spontaneous hugs during the day, no more playful pats, no more hugging me on the couch while we watched TV. He'd give me a quick goodbye kiss in the morning if I initiated it, of course, but there was no lingering, not even a deep kiss, nothing that could move him and disgust me at least. At first I felt good. I could finally exist in my own house without feeling that every interaction was charged with intimate tension. I could hug my husband without him getting excited. I could cuddle on the couch without his body responding. It was exactly what I thought I wanted. But at the end of the first week, something felt strange. One night I was washing the dishes and Daniel walked past me. He tried to get something from the refrigerator. Normally, he would have squeezed my waist or given me a pat, or at least said something flirty. Instead, he just said, "Excuse me," and went on with his business. It felt so formal, as if we were just roommates instead of being married. When I tried to talk about it, asking him why he had stopped being affectionate, Daniel's explanation was so logical it made me want to scream. "You said my physical responses were uncomfortable. I don't want to risk getting excited and making you feel uncomfortable again. That's all." I told him that feeling desire between us was something completely normal and impossible for it not to happen. I was trying to point out how ridiculous he was being, but Daniel just shrugged and told me, "It happens naturally when I'm near you, because I can't control it. The only solution is to avoid situations where it happens, and that's it." The worst part was how reasonable it sounded, as if he had simply thought things through and decided this was the most logical way to handle my complaint. But it wasn't what I wanted at all. I wanted him to get into the way of being affectionate without the intimate response, not to stop being affectionate altogether. "So, are you going to punish me forever because I asked you to tone it down a bit?" I asked him one night after he politely refused to cuddle with me while we watched a movie. "I'm not punishing you at all. You don't even look at me. I'm respecting your boundaries. You made it clear that my physical responses made you uncomfortable, so I'm making sure it just doesn't happen. I could hear the pain in his voice, even though he was trying to sound natural. And that's when I realized that maybe I had gone too far. But instead of apologizing, I got defensive. Why should I have to apologize for asking my husband to control himself? Because I was the one who was wrong for not wanting to feel intentions of that kind every time he touched me. However, the truth is that I was starting to miss feeling desired. I missed the way Daniel used to look at me as if I were the most beautiful woman in the world. I missed feeling wanted, attractive, and irresistible to my own husband. Now he looked at me just like anyone else, polite and respectful, but without that special spark that used to make me feel so good. I started to try to initiate things myself, hoping to ignite that old passion. But Daniel would respond just enough not to reject me completely. Then he would pull away before things got too intense. It was as if he had set a limit on the floor that he just wasn't going to cross, and I completely hated it. By 3 months, I felt more unwanted than ever in our marriage. I would get dressed up hoping Daniel would give me a compliment, but he would just say I looked nice in the same tone he would use to comment on the weather. I would try to be flirty or suggestive, but he would just smile appropriately and change the subject. It sounded ironic to complain that he was doing exactly the opposite of what I told him, and now he felt completely without desire. Daniel was treating me exactly as I had asked him to, as someone he could touch without any intimate response, and that was making me miserable. By the 4th month, I was going crazy. Daniel had become a polite and distant version of himself. And I was starting to panic, thinking there was something broken inside him, something inside our relationship that was no longer going to work. He was still doing nice things for me, helping around the house, asking me about my day, but it all felt so superficial, as if he were just playing the role of a good husband, without any of the passion or desire that used to motivate those actions. I tried everything to provoke a reaction. I wore a favorite outfit that he used to just love. I cooked his favorite meals. I suggested watching movies I knew he would like, but Daniel had apparently perfected the art of appreciating me without getting excited by me, and that was driving me completely crazy. How could this be the same man who would get excited by me just seeing me in a t-shirt? The worst part was how calm he was about everything, how much I got frustrated, and asked him why he was so distant. He would explain that with that same reasonable tone that he was just being respectful. When I pointed out that we barely had any intimacy, he would remind me that I had called his natural responses uncomfortable, so he was trying to avoid that. But I didn't mean for him to just stop completely. I finally exploded one night after he politely refused a shower with me. Something that used to be fun and common for us. Daniel looked at me with those tired eyes and said, "I don't know how to desire you like before, without my body reacting like it always has. You can't ask me to desire you, but you also can't ask me not to show desire." So I chose not to put either of us in this situation. I wanted to shake him. That wasn't what I had asked him for. I wanted him to control his responses, not eliminate them. But every time I tried to explain that, he would point out that he literally couldn't control them. That's how male bodies work, love. Around the 5th month, Daniel had to go on a business trip for about a week. Normally, I would have missed him terribly, and he would have called me every night, wanting to talk to me for hours. This time our conversation was brief and polite. He would ask me about my day, tell me a little about his meetings, and then we would say goodnight without any flirting, no "I miss yous," no talking about how much he was looking forward to coming home to me. When he came back, he was a little different, not just the same polite distance he had shown me for months. There was something else. He seemed more thoughtful, more settled in some way, as if he had discovered something while he was away. I tried to welcome him home like before, with hugs, kisses, and excitement to have him back, but Daniel responded just like with everything else. Courteously, briefly, and without real enthusiasm. It was like hugging a stranger who was trying to be nice to me. That's when the real panic set in. I had been telling myself that this was temporary, that we would eventually get over this, and that everything would go back to normal. But looking at him after this trip, I realized that maybe this was how it was now. This polite, distant man who treated his own wife like a roommate, without passion. I started to wonder what had happened on his trip. Had he met someone? Had he finally realized that he was happier without all the drama I had put him through? The idea of Daniel moving on without me, of him being with someone else, was in my head all the time and I tried to ignore it, but it made my stomach churn. Instead of apologizing or trying to fix what I had broken, I got angry. This was his fault. For being so extreme in everything, normal people would have found a middle ground. They wouldn't have shut down completely. He was punishing me, and now he was probably thinking about other women who wouldn't call his desire uncomfortable. I had no idea how right I was about that last part and how much worse everything was going to get. 2 days after Daniel returned from his business trip, my world fell apart completely. We were having dinner and having the usual polite, superficial conversation of these last few months. Daniel suddenly put down his fork and looked at me with a serious expression. "Camila, I don't think we're compatible like we used to be. Maybe we should just consider separating." I literally choked on my food. "What?" I managed to say instead of coughing. "Where's this coming from?" Daniel was quiet for a moment, as if carefully choosing his words. "Our intimacy dropped to almost nothing after you told me my attraction to you was disgusting. I've been thinking about this a lot, especially while I was away, and I think this just isn't sustainable for either of us." "But that's not what I wanted," I said, panic rising in my chest. "I just wanted you to tone it down a bit, not stop completely." "I can't tone down something I can't control," Daniel replied. "And I can't live in a marriage where my wife finds what I feel for her disgusting. It's not fair to either of us." That's when he dropped the real bombshell. He told me about his business trip, about how one night after a work dinner, some colleagues went to a bar. There was a younger woman, maybe in her 20s, who started flirting with him. Nothing inappropriate happened, I can promise you that. But the attention made me realize something. I hadn't felt desired in months. That stranger showed me more appreciation in one conversation than you have since you called me disgusting. And that's when I realized how unhappy I had become. I felt like I was going to throw up. "So you want to leave me for some random girl in a bar?" "I don't want to hear it because I deserve to be with someone who doesn't find my attraction to her unpleasant. Someone who appreciates being desired instead of saying I'm disgusting." I started to cry my eyes out. I didn't know what to do, where to hide, where to go, and I despaired. "I never said you were disgusting. I was just stressed and overwhelmed." "You're exaggerating a lot." But Daniel didn't believe me anymore. "You said it was uncomfortable, Camila. You said it was irritating and uncomfortable. Do you have any idea what that made me feel? I spent 3 years thinking I was lucky to have a wife who desired me as much as I desired her. And you made me feel like an indecent for wanting my own wife." "That's not what I meant," I kept saying, but the words came out and I knew how weak they sounded. I had said those things, I had called the way he desired me uncomfortable. Daniel continued talking. "It wasn't even just that moment. You never give me a compliment. You never initiate anything. You never make me feel like you really want me. I'm always the one chasing. I'm always the one showing desire and you just receive until you decided it was enough for you." I tried to argue, to list all the ways I showed love, but Daniel just shook his head. "When was the last time you told me I was attractive? When was the last time you initiated intimacy? When was the last time you made me feel like you really wanted me and not just tolerated my attraction?" I couldn't answer because he was right. I had gotten so used to being the one who was desired and pursued that I never bothered to reciprocate. I had taken his constant attention for granted and then complained about how uncomfortable it became for me. "So what? You're just giving up?" I asked with desperation in my voice. "Are you going to throw away 3 years of marriage over an argument? This isn't just an argument, this is because you don't love me like I love you and you hold a grudge against me for loving you. That's not a marriage, Camila. That's me, being grateful for crumbs of affection from someone who finds my love uncomfortable." When I asked him if he had cheated with the woman from the bar, Daniel looked at me with something like disappointment. "The fact that you immediately assume the worst of me just proves my point. I told you about her because I firmly believe in the honesty we have, not because I did anything wrong, but instead of listening to how unhappy I am, you're more worried about whether I slept with someone else." That night, Daniel slept in the guest room, and for the first time I realized I could really lose him, not to another woman, but to me, to my own selfishness and inability to appreciate what I had. But even then, facing the destruction of my marriage, A part of me thought he was exaggerating. A part of me believed it was his fault for being too sensitive to a comment I made in a stressful moment. I had no idea how much worse I was making everything, nor how completely foolish all this had become. The following weeks were a nightmare that kept getting worse. Daniel was just threatening to leave. He was really doing it. He started sleeping permanently in the guest room, talking to lawyers, looking for apartments, and the worst part was how calm and determined he seemed about everything. I tried everything to make him reconsider. I talked to him. I apologized. I promised that everything would be different, but Daniel just had that look like he had already left, like he was mourning our marriage and moving on while I was trying to fix it. "Camila, I've spent 6 months being the husband you wanted," he told me when I begged him to give us another chance. "Someone who can show you affection without desire, who can love you without wanting you." And you know what I learned? That's not love, that's just going through the motions. I started to spy on his social media. I wanted to know if there was someone else, looking for signs of the woman from the bar or any other woman. What I found was much worse. Daniel had been reconnecting with old friends, taking up hobbies that I had slowly discouraged him from, even going to therapy. He had been becoming a confident and happy version of himself that I barely recognized. My friends started asking questions when they noticed Daniel wasn't around anymore. When I tried to explain what happened, making myself out to be the victim, I saw them exchange glances. Isabel even said, "Wait, you told him it was uncomfortable for being attracted to you, Camila? That's really harsh, you know." Even my own friends were on his side, remembering all my complaints about Daniel, that he was too affectionate and always got excited, and now they look at me as if I was wrong for destroying that. Do you know how many women would kill to have a husband who still feels that way about you after 3 years? Another friend, Laura, asked me. But the real blow came when I found out from mutual friends that Daniel was dating someone. It wasn't the woman from the bar, it was someone he had met in his therapy group, a 26-year-old teacher who apparently thought Daniel was amazing and wasn't afraid to show it. I went by the coffee shop where they had told me they liked to meet, and I saw them together. Daniel looked happy, really happy. In a way I hadn't seen him in months. He was smiling and laughing, and when she touched his arm while they talked, he didn't pull away and seemed uncomfortable. He leaned in, reciprocating that kind of affection. That's when I understood what I had really lost. Not just a husband, I lost a man who had loved me completely and openly, who had made me feel like the most desirable woman in the world. I had had someone who couldn't keep his hands off me for 3 years, and I had thrown it all away because sometimes I felt uncomfortable. I tried to approach Daniel one last time. I want to clarify that at this point we were completely separated. Daniel lived somewhere else, and we no longer lived together. Everything had just fallen apart. I tried to approach him one last time, showing up at his new apartment with a long letter about how sorry I was and how much I had learned. But Daniel just looked at me tiredly when he saw me. "Camila, I'm with someone now. She makes me feel good for desiring her. Someone who wants me and says I'm attractive, who initiates things and doesn't make me feel like an indecent for getting excited with my own wife. I can't go back to feeling ashamed for saying a person I'm with. It's what makes her special to me. I can change. I know I can be better." Daniel just shook his head. "You had 6 months to improve and learn and simply understand that we should work on our things, on improving our life. Instead, you just got angry because I wasn't chasing you anymore. Even now you're not really sorry for what you said. You're just sorry for the consequences you had." And he was right. Even while I was crying and apologizing, a part of me still thought he should have handled my criticism better. He should have found a way to make me happy instead of shutting down completely. I still didn't understand everything I had done. I had simply lost him. 6 months later, I'm here in an empty house. Daniel took half the furniture when he left, watching his new girlfriend post pictures of them together on social media. She accompanies them with phrases like, "I can't believe this amazing man is mine." And she feels so loved and appreciated, the kind of phrases I never used for him. And now, after everything, he looks amazing in every picture, confident, happy, fulfilled, as if he's finally with someone who appreciates what he has and offers to call it better than what he already had. And I'm here alone wondering how I managed to destroy something that was mine for something so selfish and ungrateful to recognize it while I had it. And even after everything, a part of me still thinks he should have fought for us. He gave up too easily. That's probably why I'm sitting here alone, because I should have just understood. I still don't understand that love is not something you can criticize and control and expect to keep receiving. In the end, some actions are apparently only learned when it's already too late. Spider. Spider-Man, hey you, stop right there, handsome. What do you think you're doing?